So death is quickly becoming a bit of an obsession of mine. Having first heard Human, then Individual Thought Patterns, the only other remaster that was released this year that I had left to listen to was The Sound of Perseverance. And holy shit. The Sound of Perseverance? This album's a fucking masterpiece. And it's been slipping past me all this time. And I never knew it was there. That this... I mean, listening to this album, there was never a moment where I felt I was bored listening to this. Especially with tracks like Spirit Crusher, Flesh and the Power It Holds, and To Forgive Is to Suffer. This is like... When I first heard Human, I was like, there could be a bit more. There was like this, there was something missing. Something that, like the kind of an X factor, that once you inject that into the formula, you would have this band that would be constantly cranking out awesome albums. And hearing the sound, that X factor is present. And it feels so perfect, as if it's an undescribable harmony of just guitar lines, drums, even vocals. I have to give Chuck some credit here on this album. So far, this is the best that I've ever heard Chuck do vocals. It's insane. He's a lot more, he has a higher pitch on this album than he has on previous efforts. And it's like, it's almost this very, very, very sinister, high-pitched sounding awesomeness. Now, this copy of The Sound of Perseverance is the 2011 remaster, and it comes with a bonus track which has the band covering Judas Priest's Painkiller. And if you have not heard this cover, I suggest you look it up. When I first received this album, it was the first track that I listened to. I figured I don't really have time to listen to the whole album right now, so I'll just take a bit of a sample, and I decided to go with something a bit safe. You know, it's a cover of Painkiller. I mean, you can't screw up Painkiller too much. How does Chuck hit those high notes? He does not seem like the kind of vocalist who would be able to do that, especially from what I've heard in past efforts. But I digress. This album has blown my fucking mind. And sadly, this was the last Death album that was ever recorded before Chuck died. At least to my knowledge. There may have been some that were released posthumous, but I'm not exactly up on the discography, so forgive me if I'm wrong. But as far as I know, this was the last album released before he died. It makes me wish that there were more albums. And I can say that I am quickly becoming a fan of this band. And if I had to give The Sound of Perseverance a grade out of 10, I would give it a 10 out of 10. This really is an album that has no dull moment. It's chock full of material, progressive elements, and that album does live up to the hype that I've heard. And it's kind of a shame that I don't hear metal like this today. And if it's out there, well, maybe I'm just not looking hard enough. 10 out of 10 from me. Danny here from Metal Couch, signing off.